screen. Yes, we are live for the good fight right here on Tuesday, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, every Tuesday. We've been doing this for a while now. I don't know how long it's been, but we've been doing this for a while. Thank you all so much for joining us for the good fight. If this is your first time joining us for the good fight, you are welcome, welcome, welcome in this space. And you are welcome in the spirit of Sawubona. Sawubona is the Zulu tribal greeting, which means we see y'all. If you look it up, because I know some people have done that. I realize now that some people have looked up the word after they've heard me speak about it. If you look it up, it's going to say, we see you, we celebrate you, we respect you, something like that. But really, when you dig into it, it's just like anything else. You can't just take the first definition you see. You just can't click on the first Google result that you find. But when you dig into it, what Sawubona says is that we understand as a tribe, as a Zulu tribe, we understand that the nature and the essence of being human means that you are made up of all of your experiences, all of the stories, all of your people who have gone before you. You are a composite of all kinds of things, especially related to your ancestry, and you cannot divest yourself from that. You can run from it if you want to. You can deny it if you want to, but you cannot extricate yourself from it, extract yourself from it. It is what it is. And so we have to say then that it's not that we see you, but we see y'all, because you carry with you everything that has happened in your lineage. And so that is important for us to know, because sometimes we want to divorce ourselves from our ancestors, especially if our ancestors have caused harm to people that we know, or to even people that we don't know. We want to divorce ourselves and pretend like, well, they did that. That has nothing to do with me. But you are carrying those experiences in your cells. And so you cannot just say, oh, that wasn't me. It would behoove us all to say, let me embrace this, let me own it, and let me figure out how to navigate it so that when I show up with them, there's a way that I can do that that honors people differently, or honors people rather than dishonors them the way they may have been dishonored in the past. Or there's a way that I can help others to see the same light that I see, because we may share some of those tribal behaviors. And so that's what the Zulu tribal greeting is all about. It's about making sure that people can bring their whole selves into every space and be embraced in that space. Now, and to be embraced does not mean that we're going to think the same way, act the same way, believe the same things. That's not what it means to embrace. To embrace says that it is possible for us to coexist with our differences. As a matter of fact, our coexistence is more rich. It's more it's more rich, it's more diverse, it's more meaningful, it's more significant because of our differences, because we can sit down and break bread together and share stories and learn and grow from each other. And so that's what this spirit of oneness is all about. And that oneness that binds us together isn't the Zulu tribe. It isn't being African. It isn't being white. It isn't being poor. It's being human. And so in the spirit of humanity, the oneness of humanity, you are welcome in this space. If it is your first time, there are ways that you can engage with the good fight on tonight. One of the ways that you can engage is to locate yourself in the story. There are characters in every story that we read. Even when you're reading the Bible, they're characters just like if you were reading any other book. And sometimes you can see yourself being the protagonist, the one that the story is about. Sometimes you can see yourself as the antagonist, the one who's in opposition to the protagonist. Sometimes you can see yourself as the bystander, those that are standing on the periphery watching this happen. And you can ask yourselves questions like, do I want to be the star of this kind of story? Do I want to be the center of this kind of story? Do I want to be the one that's wreaking havoc in somebody else's life? Do I want to be the one that's standing by and not doing anything? Or do I want to be the one that's standing by as a witness so I can go and tell somebody? Like, Find yourself in the story. And it may be that you play more than one role, because in the lives that we live them seasonally. So like when you were 25, you may have been the protagonist, and then you got to be 35 and you were the antagonist. And now that you're 55, you just sitting back in the cut, watching it all go down. And so it's all about giving ourselves over to the text and allowing it to breathe, allowing it to live, allowing it to come up, lift up off the page and dance before our eyes, before we receive it and place it in our heads, our hearts, or in our hands, or in our feet even. So that's one way that you can engage with the good fight. Another way that you can engage with the good fight is to look through a mirror. There are some stories that you just simply cannot relate to. There are some stories that you have no understanding whatsoever. I hear the words coming out of your mouth, and I believe the words coming out of your mouth. I just cannot imagine. I have a friend who told me that when he was growing up, he was standing on a corner with a friend, and someone came and shot the person in the head while the person was standing beside him, and the brain matter splattered all over him. Listen, this is the kind of stuff that I see on TV. I cannot imagine. I cannot even begin to imagine what that looked like, felt like, smelled like. What was your body's reaction? Like, I cannot even imagine. So I'm going to look through this window, and I'm going to receive your story as the gift that it is, and the type of person that I am. I'm going to depend on the universe to work it through my body to help me figure out what to do with it. We talked about the ping pong theory. Now that I have this information, how is it going to manifest? Am I ever going to use it? Am I ever going to need it? I don't know, but I receive the story as the gift that it is. For somebody to tell you about their trauma, they trust you on a certain level. We usually don't talk about the things that hurt us. We usually don't talk about the things that scare us. We usually don't talk about the things that instill a deep sense of fear in us. So for a person to share their story, I know I'm always honored and I'm always privileged, and I always handle those stories with holy hands. Girl, let me tell you what's that's not what I do. If I don't have permission to share the story, I'm not going to share it. A third way that you can engage with the good fight is to walk through a door. So my hope is that beyond this hour, beyond us talking from 7 to 8, that these words will continue to ring in your body somewhere, that you will continue to think about them, you will continue to talk about them, you will share insights, you will share disagreements or challenges to whatever is being said. Doesn't matter to me how you interact with it. The fact that you are interacting means a whole lot. And then you can also comment right here. I can't comment back. If I comment back, it's going to show up on the YouTube page. It won't show up right here, I don't think. I don't think it does. But you can comment right here, lend your voice to the conversation. You can talk to other people that are in the feed that are lending their voices to the conversation. You can have a whole little chit chat going on. However you want to do that is all right with me. And so those are the ways that you can engage with the good fight. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate your presence. Even if you are not showing up live, I want to always shout out to those people who listen during some other time during the rhythm of their life. I really appreciate that. You don't have to be live. And you can also text me. You can also reach out to me anytime. And I'll be right here to have the conversation with you. Okay, let's see. I've been thinking a lot about conversations and what we choose to talk about when we meet people. I've been to several get-togethers, gatherings, events, and it seems like we have kind of a script that we follow socially when we meet people. We meet people and we ask each other, we exchange our names. Then it seems like the next thing that we want to know is, what do you do? That's what it seems like. And then you begin to talk about your work. You begin to talk about your work, where you've worked, what you've done. The other person will find themselves in your work history. So that, oh yeah, I've done that before, or I've seen. And so then you begin to talk about work. You begin to talk about your bosses. You begin to talk about your colleagues. You kind of get bogged down in the work conversation. And then the conversation continues. Somebody else walks up and it's the same thing all over again. Denise, this is John. John works at such and such. They, oh, I know somebody that works. And so the conversation seems to center around who you are and what you do. And I have gotten to the point in my life where for me, when I go into an event, if the second question is what you do, I automatically say to myself, oh, this is not a space for me. This is not a space for me, because I am acutely aware that I, as Denise, am not defined by my work. I am not what I do. I exist as human, and there is work that I provide, but that work that I provide does not define me as human. These are two separate things. I am who I am. I am who I was created to be. I am who I was called to be. And I just so happen to do this kind of work, which for me, we talk about change seasons, which for me could change seasonally. Like, I got a degree, I got 4 degrees, and I've done all manner of work. And so I've gotten to the point now where I say, okay, I see what's going on right here. I can tell what this is about, and I don't want to be a part of this. I want to be in situations where we are living into the spirit of Sawubona, where we are living into the spirit that says, I want to see y'all. I want to celebrate y'all. I want to embrace y'all. I want to get to know y'all. That's one of the things that I'm learning about African traditions, that this idea that we have to, that time is so important to us. I'm reading Dr. Joy DeGruy's book about post-traumatic slave syndrome, and she's talking about time, and she's talking about how we in the Western world, how we look at time. We're always busy. We're always trying to get somewhere. We're always trying to do something. We're always trying to finish something. Like, it's this constant grind that we're in, that we don't stop for a moment and just say, wait a minute, I see y'all. Like, I just want you to know that I see y'all. We don't take the time to ask about somebody's soul. We don't take the time to inquire about somebody's family. We don't take the time to learn the children's names, or the dogs' names, or the iguana's names, whatever kind of pets y'all have in the house, because my brother's daughter has a bird and his name is Elliot. We don't take the time to do that because we're so busy trying to succeed. We're so busy trying to be in the rat race. We're so busy doing all of these things that we don't stop to celebrate each other. And so so the African tradition is that the most important thing for me to do when you walk in the room is to stop, to acknowledge you, and to ask about you, and to ask about your family, and to see about your children. That's the most. Yes, we have an agenda. Yes, we've got work to do. Yes, we want to strategize. Yes, all of that is important, but it is not as important as what's going on in your life, what's happening to your body, what's happening with your family. And so that's where I am these days, where I want to be in a situation, I want to be surrounded by people who are celebrating people for who you are, and not at all impressed by what you do. I couldn't care less if you make 6 figures. I couldn't care less if you work for the Stevens Company. I couldn't care less if you work for the governor. None of that matters to me. Now, is it going to be important as a part of the conversation at some point? Yes, of course. You're going to talk about your job. Yes, we're going to get to that. But when I first meet you, that's not what I'm trying to figure out. I'm not trying to figure out how high you are up on the ladder to success. I'm not trying to figure out what kind of car you drive. I'm not trying to figure out where you live. I'm not trying to figure out all of those things. I just want to get to know you. Tell me something about you. Tell me something about you that most people don't know. Let's start right there. Tell me something about you that you haven't said in a while. Like, whatever the prompt is that I use, it's about getting to know you. And so one of the things that we also talk about, I think it's a social norm that is unwritten, but it's spoken. Everybody speaks it. I've heard several times that when you are in conversation with people, it is important that you don't talk about politics and you don't talk about religion. Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about religion, because those are divisive issues that can make the conversation go left. And that's what you don't want to do. You want to be polite. You want to have the proper etiquette. You want to make people feel good. You want to make people comfortable. And so we don't talk about the very issues that direct much of our lives. Most of us believe in something, some entity, some force. It may not be Jesus. You may not even call it God, but you have faith in something. And whatever that something is that you have faith in, it guides everything that you do. So the way that you vote is going to be guided by your faith. So for us not to talk about faith, religion, and for us not to talk about politics, then we are leaving big, huge chunks of people and their lives and their feelings and their thoughts out of the conversation. So that's probably why we end up talking about stuff that really doesn't matter, because the substantial things we've taken off the table before we even get into the room. And I've been thinking about that a lot, but especially now since my mom died. So my mom died Friday. I want to say it was around 3:00 is what's going to show up on her death certificate, but they didn't pronounce her until 5:44. I'm learning, y'all. I didn't go through this with my dad, but this is a whole different process with being involved in every step. And a couple of things happened when my mom, as she lay dying, and then after she died. So there were people who were coming by to pay their, not to pay their respects, people who were coming by to lay eyes on her, because I was being very transparent. Y'all, look, it's getting bad. It's touch and go. Look, if you coming over here, you need to come over here. For the people that my mother wanted to reach out to, I was reaching out to them and saying, please, she's calling for you. Can you please come and see her? Like, I was trying to make sure that no one was going to get caught off guard by what was happening, and then it was happening so fast. Once she got off dialysis, it was happening so fast. And so this one person came over, this one man who is a Christian man. He came over and he went into my mom at the time. She wasn't walking or talking or anything. So she was lying in the bed. And he went into the bedroom and started praying over her. And I didn't know that's what he was doing, because, I was trying to give people, my mama taught me to do this. There's so many gifts that people give you that sometimes you don't realize how impactful they are until later. So the way that my mama raised us, the way that she reared her 3 children, 2 boys, 1 girl, the way that she reared us is that she would have us all together. My dad was a working man. So he was an educator. He was a coach. He was a hustler. He was all of those things. And so he wasn't always home, but my mama was always it was always the 4 of us, me and my 2 brothers and my mom. And one of the things we didn't realize this until we were grown, that what she would do is she would spend time with us one-on-one. So there were times when it was just me and my mom. There were times when it was just Dwayne and my mom. It was times when it was just Derek and my mama. And there were also times when it was the 4 of us all together. And so she was cultivating within us an individual relationship, and she was in relationship with us as a collective. We were a collective as a family. And so she, when we all went to Florida, so my brother Dwayne got recruited to teach in the Lee County School District in Fort Myers, Florida. Once he got recruited, he became a recruiter, and he recruited my brother Derek. So Derek became an educator in the Lee County School District in Fort Myers, but he was living in Cape Coral. And then Derek recruited me to come and work in the Lee County School District. So all of the Donnell children are in the same district. We are all educators, and we're all on the same intranet. And so we began to have conversations. Sometimes we would email each other throughout the day, just checking in with each other, seeing what's going on, because we were all at different schools, but in the same district. And one day we started playing this game. We didn't realize it, but we would say a phrase, and we'd say, who says that? And it was a phrase that my mother would say to each of us individually. So because she was saying it to each of us individually, we didn't think the other person would know or recognize the phrase. So we kind of felt like we had a one-up on, I bet you don't know who said this. But we realized that, wait a minute, She told you the same stuff she was telling you, she was telling me. So she was cultivating this relationship that made us feel like she belonged just to us, even though we knew we were a collective. To this day, if you call my brothers, one of them is gonna, all of us say this, have you talked to my mama? like we don't have the same mama. Like, she my mama. Have you talked to my mama? I don't know where your mama is. We do that. And so she taught me to do that. I didn't realize that. So now I am the same way. Say, for instance, I'm introduced to a couple. I'm introduced to Nikki and I'm introduced to Misty. Well, I'm introduced to both of them together. We talk together, we laugh together, and we have a great relationship together. But I will also talk to Nikki by herself, and I will also talk to Misty by herself. And so I've been doing this my whole life and did not realize it, that I had gotten that from my mother. And so she taught me how to let people get to know folks for themselves, right? Because the relationship that I have with her is going to be different than the relationship that you have with her. So let that, whatever organically is going to happen between y'all, let me just step back and let that happen. And so when people would come over here to see her, I would connect them. I would take them to where she is and say, hey, T, whatever it is, here's so and so and so and so. And then I would leave out of the room because I want you to connect the way that you're going to connect. So I did not realize that this man was in there praying over my mama. And I was like, why is he praying over my mama? So he ought to be glad that she couldn't talk, because I'm sure she would have told him to stop praying over her. But later on, when I was talking to him, just the two of us, I said, what was that all about? Like, I don't remember how I got into the conversation, but basically I asked him, why were you praying over my mother? What made you think that, she wanted you to pray over her? And he was like, no, she can feel the energy. She knew what was going on. She know my energy. She understand that. And that got me really thinking. I'm like, at what point have you had a conversation with my mother about her theology? Oh, wait, here's a comment. Wonder how long it's been up there. Wait a minute. What you say, Triana? They say siblings never have the same parents. What do you mean by that? Because of the relationship? Yes, I can see that. Yeah. Because I'll tell you that in my family, Dwayne, the one in the middle, I would consider him the golden child. So the relationship that he had with the daddy that he was in relationship with, I'm like, I ain't never met that man before. As a matter of fact, one day, Dwayne and I were traveling together. He was driving me home. I was moving from Florida. I had been recruited there, but I decided to leave. And they're still there to this day. And we were driving home, and I started telling him the way that my daddy treated me. And he told me my daddy did not treat him. Don't talk about his daddy. Ain't no way his daddy did that to me. And I was like, slow your roll, sir. Slow your roll. Don't you ever tell me about my life with my daddy. Now, you can talk about your life with your daddy, but don't talk to me about mine. So yeah, now I get what you're saying. Absolutely. So Triana says, the mother I had is not the mother my elder siblings had. I was thinking about that too, because I know some people who have a big age gap. And so my dad's mom had 12 children. So by the time the 12th one got here, they laugh about this now, like she was tired. So he pretty much got away with everything, because she ain't had time to be running around trying to see about him. She was, look, leave that to the other children. And so sometimes it's also, I've met people where there's an economic difference. So when the older children were born, the finances caused the family to struggle. The younger children are born, and now the family is in a better financial place. And so the way that they're brought up is different. So yeah, I can see exactly what you're saying. They say siblings never have the same parents. We always talk about my mama, your mama. And so I was wondering, when he was praying for my mom and believing, and I believe that he believed what he was saying about my mother being able to feel his energy and to know that it was authentic and to know that he was real and true about his prayer. And I said, but I was wondering, but when did you have that how would my mother know that about you? You feel like she's just sensing it. Like, I sense your theology. I feel your theology. You walk in the room and I understand your theology. I know who your God is. Like, how does that work, sir? And so he wasn't ready to have that conversation. He just wanted to leave it there. Oh, she knew. I was like, okay, I don't want to have the conversation with somebody who's not open to having it, right? So, okay, let's just leave it like that. But then after The funeral home came, and they took my mother out, and the young lady who I don't know if she's a funeral director. I don't know what her title is or her role is. I don't know. I didn't care. But she came in and she said, "Well, would you like to have prayer before I go? Would you like to have a word of prayer before I go?" And I said, "No, I would not." And I wish I could have captured the look on her face so that I could pull up the picture and show it to you. It was like she was shocked and horrified. Like, who turns down prayer? Like, I can't believe, especially if you walk into the room, my office, there are like 50 gazillion crosses right here. So she may have assumed, because she sees these crosses, that I must be a Christian. I must want to pray. Like, she probably made several assumptions. And because of the work that she does as a funeral home director, she assumes that people want to pray because my mama just died. Surely I want to pray. But the look on her face was one of confusion. She was flabbergasted. She was floored. She was amazed. She stuttered. She was like, okay. Like, she didn't know what to do. And so that got me to thinking again, like, what would make her think that I would want her to pray over me? I know nothing about your theology. I don't know who you believe in. I don't know what you believe in. I don't know who you gonna pray to. I don't know how you're gonna pray. I don't what. And at that moment, I was like, the arrogance of Christians, because I did sense that. I knew she was a Christian. Like, what is it about us that makes us think? And I'm putting myself in this box because I do wear the label Christian, or I'm trying to take it off, y'all. I'm trying to take it off. But I'm putting myself in this box. What is it that makes us think that every person that we see shares our theology, and it ought to be okay that we extend our theology extend it to this person with or without their permission? So then the young man who went to see my mother did not have her permission. This woman sought my permission, but was confounded when I declined the invitation. So what is that about? Why do we have the audacity to believe that everybody should believe what we believe? It's the same thing that happens when I go into a store and I'm on my way out and somebody says, "Have a blessed day." Right. Now, most of the time, that's a Christian phrase. That's Christian phraseology. I know other people can say that. I know that. But some people only say it because they've heard other people say it. They think that that's the best way to usher somebody forth through the rest of their day. And so I'm like, but, sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll say, what's blessed? What's blessed about this day? What kind of blessings are you pronouncing on me? What is that? And a lot of times they can't answer. Again, they're flabbergasted that you would have any kind of retort to what they consider to be a great thing that they're doing, offering you this gift of their theology without even considering that you may have your own theology or no theology, or you might even share their theology, but have a different understanding of it. And so I've really been thinking about it. So when the flyer went up today, the topic was Ask Me That. I want to get to the point where we are in conversation. You want to know my name. You want to know where I'm from. You want to know what I do. Ask me about my theology. Ask me about my faith. Ask me what I believe. Don't assume anything about your Jesus or my God. Here's Phyllis Brown. This reminds me of a story about my mother. A woman said to my mother, "I'm going to pray for you." My mother said to the woman, "Don't pray for me because your God may not be my God." Don't pray for me because your God may not be my God. And your understand, even if we have the same God, here's where I am right now. Even if we have the same God, our understanding of that God is not the same. The way that God, your God and my God manifest, the way they move may not be the same. Yeah, so don't just start praying for me. She said, "Here's Triana, girl, my sister said she would pray for me." And I said, "Exactly what is your prayer?" And she is my bestie. I'm not upset, just want to know the words, because what you say is best for me specifically may not be what I see. Again, how you gonna pray for me without conversation? now don't get me wrong. There are people who I will allow to pray for me, but I'm only going to allow you to pray for me if I know your theology, if I understand where you are, what you believe. That's the only way I'm going to allow it. So not very many people can pray for me because I need to know. We need to be in conversation. We need to have an understanding. Even when now I'm a prayer warrior. Now, I know that seems strange. I don't want nobody praying for me, but I'm praying for everybody. Yes, people know me to be a prayer warrior. People have called me that. People have taken my prayers and sent them to other folks. People keep them in their phones. People refer back to them over and over again. People reach out to me years later and say, I still have this prayer that you prayed for me. So I'm known for that in certain circles. And so I will pray. But what I first do is ask. First of all, this is the first question I ask. Do you have prayer as a faith practice? Right? Because first of all, do you even pray? Before I'm trying to pray for you, do you even pray? That's the first question. Is that part of your faith practice? If they say yes, I say, okay, well, who do you pray to Jesus? Do you consider yourself a Christian? Are you more of a universalist? Are you ecumenical? Are you like who's your God? And so I'm asking, when you talk about specifics, Triana's like, I need to know what you're saying. And so I want to pray for them because the Bible says where 2 or 3 are gathered together, touching and agreeing, then God is in the midst. So I want to agree with you in your prayer. So what is it that we are praying for? I ask that all the time. What are we praying for? What is our prayer? Because I should not take it up on myself to believe that I know what's best for you. And I'm going to send God to tell you what I told God to tell you, or do what I want God to do for you. That is mind-boggling to me in this moment. And so I wanted to see if there was something in the Bible that speaks to this issue of us getting to know each other in a deeper way, so that when we want to pray, or when we are trying to relate to a person on a spiritual level, we don't make these assumptions, and that we're not conceited and cocky and overconfident in our own faith, believing that what we believe is the only way to believe, or that what we believe is the only right way to believe, and that the way that we walk in our faith is the way that everybody should walk in their faith. We have got to get rid of that idea. Now, I know this world is pushing us to believe that it is a Christian nation. We keep hearing people talking about this world was built, this nation was built on this country was built as a Christian nation, and that's a lie. This nation was built for you to have the freedom of religion, right? So we've got to figure out a way how to begin to debunk this idea that if we start talking about faith, then that's going to cause division. I think that that's probably the work of the enemy. And when I say the enemy, I'm talking about the systems of oppression and domination, the work of the enemy, so that we won't have these conversations. So, and because we don't have the conversations, we don't realize that there is a way for us to coexist with our spiritualities. And so I found I keep saying Psalm. I found Proverbs chapter 20, verse 5. And I'm going to pull it up in just a minute. As a matter of fact, I have 8 different renditions, 8 different translations of it, because I thought about what I'm saying. I thought about saying, I'm saying to us that we should understand what how another person believes, how another person hears, how another person understands. And so I thought, well, why don't I give different ways of hearing and understanding this same verse, so that you can find yourself in whichever one speaks to you the most. So here's Phyllis Brown. Sorry, something's on my lip. The white female cashier at Dollar Tree said to me, "Have a blessed day." I was aghast. Look, you got me clutching my pearls. The implications of a white woman telling me to have a blessed day was conflicting. The white female cashier at Dollar Tree said to me, "Have a blessed day." I was aghast. The implications of a white woman telling me to have a blessed day was conflicting. You know, I really do think that our reputation for black folks, I really believe, and I'm saying black, I'm saying black. I'm not even talking about the African diaspora. I'm talking about black folks, those of us who carry within ourselves the tragedy and the trauma, the original sin of enslavement for our people on this soil. I think that our reputation precedes us, that we are the most religious. We are the most religious people that other folks encounter. And especially in the South, we are the ones who profess Christianity more than we profess any other faith. And so I think because of that stereotype, because of that that prevailing notion, because of that ideology, because of that idea, I really believe that this woman probably thought she was meeting you where you are. Surely a Black person in Arkansas is a Christian. And I'm guilty of that too, because a Protestant Christian, because I believe Catholics are Christian too. That's my understanding. But to be Catholic, Catholicism and Protestantism is not the same thing. It's not the same way of practicing. It's not the same way of believing. And so when I meet Black folks that are Catholic, there have been times where I've been like, woo. Now, I know it's plenty of Black Catholic people. I know that, but I have to catch my own bias. I have to arrest my own biases. I have to. I'm like, why are you surprised that a Black person is Catholic? And so I think that that's part of what's happening, that people think, especially the way that the world is, that these are things that are just these are normal. It's normal for me to say this. Everybody understands that you need to have a blessed day, especially you Black woman in the South. Surely you praise Jesus every day. Part of it, I think, is that. So, Triana says, I feel as if have a blessed day is somewhat of a standard thing to say. They don't mean it or think about it. It rolls off the tongue. I feel as if have a blessed day is somewhat of a standard thing to say. They don't mean it or think about it. It rolls off the tongue. Yes, it's a conditioning, but it's a conditioning that says that we are all believing in the same thing, because not everybody says have a blessed day. I've never had, when I'm talking about for people that I'm in relationship with, because I'm in relationship with some people who are Muslim. I'm in relationship with some people who are Jewish. I'm in relationship with some people who have African spirituality. None of them tell me to have a blessed day. The only people in my inner circle who tell me to have a blessed day are Christians and strangers who think I'm a Christian, or who think everybody's a Christian. And so it's a conditioning, it's a programming that is causing a whole lot of problems for us in this world today, because we are even legislating behind this idea that everybody should be Christian. And so that's what I'm pushing us towards, to say we've got to begin to have broader conversations as we try to get to know people, so that we include in the questioning, what's your name, where you live, where you work, what's your faith? Do you have faith? Do you believe? And it ought to be okay. Like whatever they say ought to be okay, because I'm just trying to learn more about you. I just want to get to know you better, and understanding your faith, understanding what drives you, understanding your convictions, that helps me get to know you better. Without knowing that, we really don't know much about a person at all. And so Proverbs chapter 20, verse 5 is asking us, inviting us into these deeper conversations. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the Proverbs, about the book of Proverbs, that they are designed, like they're just kind of like what you're saying, Triana. They're kind of like they just kind of roll off your tongue. They're meant to be these phrases that you internalize, that kind of roll off of your tongue, so that you can share them with people. Kind of like you internalize them, like you're memorizing them. You don't have to memorize them because you don't have to say them verbatim, but you get the principle of them. You want to share with other people, because the Proverbs are designed to help you understand, help you navigate your life, help you to be wise, help you to learn how to become wise, help you learn how to teach young people to gain a better understanding, help you figure out how to resolve conflicts. They're meant to be educative, not just for this moment, not just for Sunday school, but this is a way that you can guide. These are sayings that can guide your life. So they are very important for all of us, because they're teaching us to be wise, they're teaching us to be honest, they're teaching us to be fair. And for me, I want to add the word just. If I'm trying to be wise, I'm trying to be honest, I'm trying to be fair, then I think that fair and just should go together. And so it's about you also holding people accountable. It's about you accepting accountability. It's about you being responsible. It's about you knowing that at some point in your life, you're going to need correction. And somebody has to be part of your community that is willing and to correct you, and not just correct you, but a person that corrects you that you can hear. Because a lot of people try to correct us, but we can't hear them. And some people can correct us and we absolutely hear them. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Some folks, you can't tell me nothing about my life. You cannot tell me nothing about my life. Other people, I seek out counsel from you. I want to know what you see in me. I want to know how you experience me, because I value your input. I value your insight, because we have been in relationship with me long enough for me to come to understand you in that way. And so these proverbs are saying, hey, we need to be able to accept correction when we hear it, because we know in this community that we are building what Dr. King would call the beloved community. The only reason I'm correcting you is because I love you. I used to say this about the children that I taught. The children that were buck wild, didn't have any discipline at home. I used to come home and my mama and I would talk about it. Your mama don't love you, boo. Now, of course, I never said that to the child, but me and my mama would talk about it. If you do not discipline, if you do not, now I ain't said nothing about beating. I ain't said nothing about corporal punishment. I said discipline. If you do not guide, if you do not have boundaries, if you do not set standards, if you do not have expectations, if you do not hold your children accountable, if you do not make them responsible, then you don't love them. You absolutely do not love them. The Proverbs are even designed for people who are not smart to be smart. Just had this conversation today, and I was talking about how one of the things as a teacher, again, my mama taught me so much stuff. Oh, she's just heavy on my heart right now. My mama taught me that, she was my mentor as a teacher. She was an educator. She taught me. She would say to me, Denise, every child in your room is smart. I don't care what grade they made on the test. I don't care what language comes out of their mouth. Every child in their room is smart. Your job is to figure out how they are smart. Because not everybody's going to learn from you reading this math problem, this word problem. Not everybody can learn from you reading it out of this book. Like, they've got different learning styles, and you've got to tap into the way that they learn in order for you to teach them so that they can receive what it is that they need to be successful. You can't just get up there teaching the same thing to everybody in the same way. And so the Proverbs said, look, I don't care what your IQ is. I don't care what your SAT score is. I don't care what your ACT score is. You are able to learn from these sayings. You can be just as wise as the next person, because it's not about what you do like they do. It's about how you operate in your own being, in your own body. And so that's what the Proverbs are designed to do. They help us learn to solve difficult problems. Not just problems, but difficult problems. So they require understanding. They require wisdom. They require knowledge. They require collaboration. They require all of this so that we can move forward to get and gain the things that we need in this life, so that we can be wise, we can be honest, we can be fair. So that's what the Proverbs are meant to do. That's what they are about. And so these are these little sayings. And I only pulled out verse 5 because most of the time I'll say, hey, we need to make sure that we keep things in context. We need to make sure that we have a pericope so that we can understand that we are extracting this from a larger story. But the Proverbs don't necessarily tell a story. They are just quips, right? They're just like little nuggets. So I'm just pulling out Proverbs number 5. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 5. And I have 8 of them. I think I have it written in 8 different ways. And so I'm gonna read all 8 of them. And you can grab hold to the one that best speaks to you in whatever language that you can receive it in, because these are different translations. And the translation will be up there. I'll say the translation. And so just hear the different ways that Proverbs chapter 20, verse 5 is asking us to refrain from doing what that man did and this funeral home director did to my mother and to me. That refrain from assuming that we can just speak over somebody else's life without the benefit of conversation. Okay, where are they? All right, here we go. This is from the English Standard Version. ESV is English Standard Version. The purpose in a man's heart is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. From the Contemporary English Bible, advice comes from the deep waters of the heart. Those with understanding can draw it out. The New Living Translation says it this way: though good advice lies deep within the heart, a person with understanding will draw it out. The easy to read version says, getting information from someone can be like getting water from a deep well. If you are smart, you will draw it out. The Living Bible says, though good advice lies deep within a counselor's heart, the wise man will draw it out. The Good News Translation says, a person's thoughts are like water in a deep well, but someone with insight can draw them out. The New International Version says it this way: the purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out. And then finally, the Easy English Bible says a person's thoughts are like deep waters, but a wise person can bring them into the open. So basically, all of them, of course, they're all saying the same thing because they're different translations of the same thing. But the point that they're making is that if you want to get to know a person, if you want to know what they think, if you want to know what they feel, if you want to know what they believe, if you want to know what drives them, they have hidden that way down in their heart. I don't know a person. Y'all might be like, that's not true. I was getting ready to say, I don't know a person that just walks up to a stranger and just pours out their whole soul. I don't know. But I used to think, and sometimes I still think, that I have something written on my forehead that says, you can tell me anything. Because I'll never forget this. I was an associate pastor at Broadmeadow United Methodist Church on Northside Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. It was a predominantly white church. I had only been hired because I was Black. That's the only reason that I was hired, because the neighborhood, the demographics in the neighborhood were changing. More Black people were coming into the neighborhood as a result of white flight. The church did not want to move, and so, but they felt like they needed somebody Black to help them navigate the Black folks that were coming in. And so that's why I was hired. I was hired to help them bridge this gap across racial lines. And people, were getting to know me. They were nice to me. Some people would come up and they would say, hey, I'd like to take you out to lunch. I want to get to know you, because I was new. I was like, okay, fine. And I can't remember the lady's name, but we went to some sandwich shop, because I remember we got half a sandwich and some soup. Like that was kind of like the meal that we got. And I sat down. I had never met her. I had seen her in church, but this was our very first time sitting down together. And I had my spoon with my soup, and it was almost to my lips when she said, well, I want you to know that my husband is cheating on me with his secretary. He doesn't think I know. And I was just like, so at the time I was very green. It was my first appointment to the United Methodist Church. So I did not have, I let it show on my face that I was so surprised. Like, I'm not like that now. But at the time I was like, now who does that? Most of the time people do not do that, right? I'm not saying people don't. I was about to say people don't, but most of the time that does not happen. So there are things that we are carrying in our hearts that are sacred to us. We do need to talk about them. We do need to share the story. We cannot continue to hold them the way that we are holding them, because in many cases, those things that are so sacred to us are many times they're painful, and they are traumatic. And so we don't need them to sit and fester because they become toxic. So we need to share them, but we can't just share them with anybody. We're not going to just trust anybody. We got to wait until we feel like there is this person that can draw them out of us. Here is Phyllis Brown. A Black male server at Community Bakery asked me the same question. What church you belong to? I answered, haven't we had this conversation? I don't belong to or go to church. I wish he could find another question, another way to connect with me. Yeah. Yeah, I do think that people see that as a means of a way to connect, because people do ask that question, what church do you go? So we ask, what's your name? Where do you work? What church you go to? I forgot about that. Yes, that is usually one of the questions in the list that we ask people because we're trying to know something about them. And so I bet he really is trying to connect with you, and he's assuming that you go to church because we assume that most people go to church and that they go to a Christian church at that. But why is that the point of connection, right? Why not say, what else could he say? Maybe he could connect with you because if I know you ordering the same pastry every time you go. Maybe he could connect with you on pastries, right? Or maybe you go at the same time of day, or maybe he can call your name. Like, there's so many different ways that we can connect other than assuming that we're going to connect based on a shared faith, because we don't know if we have a shared faith until we ask. And if we're too busy like what damage is it going to cause the relationship if you ask somebody about their theology? What the person going to do? Are they going to cuss you out because you ask them about their theology, ask them about their faith? Theology is the study of God, like what you believe about God. So that's when I'm saying theology, I'm asking you, what do you think about God? The person may say, I don't believe that there is a God. The person may say, I believe in Yoruba. Like, I don't know. Phyllis Brown says, this is Triana. Oh, so Triana says, Phyllis Brown, maybe you should begin the conversation. Then what would happen then? I wonder. And so how much damage can you do if you ask somebody what their faith practice is? As a matter of fact, there have been some people, when I ask them about their faith, if their faith practice includes prayer, they will say to me, thanks for asking. Nobody has ever asked me that before. And some people are just waiting for you to dig deeper. And I know you don't do that on the first. Well, I do. Let me tell you what happened the other day. I went to Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing. That's over here on Wright Avenue in Little Rock, and I was collecting signatures for the Arkansas Reproductive Justice Amendment. And there was this woman who came in, and I asked her, I said, my name is Denise, and I'm collecting signatures for the Arkansas Abortion Amendment. And I was wondering if you would be willing to sign, because we want to put this on the ballot for the people to decide. And she said, well, no, I'm not from here. I don't live in Arkansas. And so I said, oh, you don't? Where are you from? So we started talking, and she started telling me about her husband, his ex-wife, her relationship with the ex-wife, about the children, which were the children's like her, and what they call it. Like, she had done all of this talking. Like, I think we had talked maybe 15, because there wasn't very many people coming in the store at that moment. We must have talked like 15 minutes, and finally she said, wait a minute, what is your name? She said, I'm telling you my whole life story, and I don't even know your name. And so after that, like maybe 20 minutes after that, her husband comes in, and I asked the same thing, but this time I said, are you an Arkansas voter? Because I had just made the mistake. And then he said, no, I'm here with my wife. I said, oh, that must be your wife. And she said, hold up. Don't talk to her. She gonna know everything about you. And look, just be careful with her, because she gonna find out everything. And so there are some people like me who are the ones who can draw it out. There are people in your midst. If we take the time to sit down with each other and say, I'm centering you in this conversation. I want to know about you. Now, don't get me wrong. If she had asked me a question, I would have answered the question. But a lot of times people do want to talk about themselves, and I let them talk. As long as you want to talk, I will allow you to talk. I don't have to say it. I don't have to share anything. Like, I'm good. And so if there are people in our midst who are willing to have the deeper conversations, who know the importance of having the deeper conversations, who aren't afraid of any topic, because even if it begins to cause some contention, people who are good conversationalists, we know how to make sure that it doesn't go left. And if you think you can't stop it from going left, then you can be like me. I'll say, you know what? This is not going to end well, so I'm going to go. And I just get up and go. Because if I know it's not going to end well, why keep going? Why keep pushing? And so there are ways that we can engage each other in conversation around the things that matter to us the most if we are concerned. So here is the question. Are we concerned enough to go deeper with each other? Do we even, because when Triana says, I think that people say have a blessed day because it's something that they don't even think about, they don't even mean it. It just rolls off their tongue. Just like when somebody asks you, how are you? A lot of times you don't want to know the answer. Because if a person says, oh, well, child, let me tell you, girl, I'm going through all kind of things. If you like me, you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know they were going to start talking. I got 10 minutes and they still talking. And now I feel trapped. Like, because I didn't really know that I wasn't ready, wasn't prepared for the conversation, didn't even want the conversation at that time. So I know you're responding to Triana. Phyllis Brown says, he knows I like apple fritters. Why won't he offer another pastry? He might not be skilled enough to know to do that. I don't know why he won't offer you another pastry. Or he might say, all she gets is apple fritters. That must be the only thing she wants. Does he have it ready for you? That's what I wonder. If he knows that you like apple fritters and he recognizes you when you walk in the door, I wonder, does he say, hey, Miss Brown, well, hey, Phyllis. I don't know how you have him calling your name, but if it was me, I'd be like, hey, Phyllis, I got your apple fritter. I want Miss Brown in the house, apple fritter coming up. That happened to me the other day. Not too long ago, I went to the drive-thru at Walgreens, and the lady picked up the phone and said, for Miss Donnell. And I said, that made me feel good. She was like, tell me their birthday again. She knew exactly who I was. When you call people's names, they appreciate that. So Triana says, see, Reverend Dr. Denise Donnell, that's why I don't smile, because when I do, they pour into me. My RBF is deadly. Rest in bitch face. But like you, I ask with knowing the other does not have to answer. So yeah, at this point in my life, I'm only going to ask if I have the time to create the space. If I do not have time to hold space for you, I am not going to ask, because the last thing I want to do is cut you off when you are sharing something that I know is holy and sacred, that I know is a gift for me. I do not want to do that. And if I'm on the phone, but I will create space intentionally for people. And I do that. I'm talking about just walking through the grocery store. Like if I see somebody and I want to talk to them or whatever happens, because I don't know about you, but people talk to me in the grocery store. Like, one day I was in Edwards and I was buying onions. I was buying onions and tomatoes, and she was buying greens and something. And so she looked over at my basket and she was trying to figure out, now what can we make together? What you finna go cook? What can we look? We finna show. If we put our baskets together, we can show enough have us a good time. Like that just happened in the grocery store. But yes, there are people who are holding things way down deep inside that they need to talk about, that they should talk about, that we would be, and this is where I would use the word blessed. We would be blessed in hearing the story, because again, all storytelling to me, those are gifts to us. We don't know how we're going to use those gifts. We don't know how those gifts are going to impact us. We don't know how those gifts might bind us together. We don't know, and we can't know if we don't have the conversation. If I'm afraid I still am back to this question: why should I be afraid to talk about God? Why should I be afraid to talk about politics? Why should I be afraid to talk about my family? Why should we be afraid to have these conversations? The only reason we are afraid, again, is because we have not yet learned the art of dialogue. The art of dialogue that says what Triana says. You do not have to answer any question that's posed to you. Or like Phyllis Brown says, well, if you ask me a question and and that's not something I ascribe to, I'm gonna tell you, I don't go to church, sir. So that's not a conversation that we can have. And if you get mad because somebody tells you their truth, then there's something else going on here. And we need to think about that. And so I'm asking us to consider, because all I do is offer things up for consideration. You can accept it or reject it. Or you can accept it now, reject it later, reject it now, and accept it later. But what would that look like for you? To begin to get to know people through the lens of their spirituality, if they have one. And of course, I don't mean just walking up to somebody and say, hey, you believe in God? Because it's a relationship build. You're building a relationship. When's the last time you decided to build a relationship with somebody? When's the last time you talked to somebody and you invited them to dinner because you said, you know what? I see you every Sunday, or I see you I see you every time you come into a community bakery, and I just want to get to know you better. I can't believe that we've been knowing each other 15 years and it never dawned on me to ask you, what do you have prayer as part of your faith practice? Like, I can't believe that. Like, when's the last time we invited somebody to go deeper with us in conversation just because we want to know them? Not because I'm trying to get your information so I can go back and tell somebody. No, but I just want to know you. I just want to know you and know you better. I want to spend time with you. I want to be around you. I just like your energy. Would you spend some time with me? I know I be calling for Phyllis Brown. No, I be like, hey, can you come outside? Hey, can I come over your house? Triana Davis, I've got plenty of time now to visit Mississippi. You got plenty of time now to visit Arkansas. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself, y'all. Yeah, but it's 8:00. I do want to tell you though, before I go, that we're going to have T's Arkansas Memorial Service. It's going to be this Saturday, not this Saturday, the 27th, the following Saturday, the 27th at 10:30 a.m. at New Beginnings Church of Central Arkansas. And there'll be a repast immediately following upstairs because it's a memorial. It's not a funeral. And I'm going to disseminate that information, but just wanted to let you know, just in case you were wondering, that we do. And then we're going to be in Mississippi, Triana. We're having one in Mississippi on August 3rd as well. So thank you all so much for joining us. I still carry my mother right here. Joining us for the good fight will be and all my people. Joining us for the good fight will be right back here on next Tuesday, 7:00 Central Standard Time. Bye.